my name is Wana and welcome to Culture Diaries. Today on the show, my guest is a Canadian-born Nigerian musician whose influences glide from Etta James and Duke Ellington to King Sunny Ade and Lauryn Hill. She speaks 4 languages and sings in them. Her name is Falana. Welcome.
Hello.
The hair is very fabulous, very Rick James.
Rick James. That's
I like
Cleopatra. I was going for Cleopatra.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Exactly.
Very Rick James, yeah.
I feel like I listen to music and I feel like you've been very unfair to us because...
To who? Nigerians?
To people who have just discovered your music.
Okay.
And I feel this way because we get to see artists, grow and stumble and experiment and do all the, be insecure and not really know what they're doing. You just came and just give us like the finished product, like bam, which is so unfair.
Why is that unfair?
I don't know, we could have laughed at you a little bit. You just came like perfect.
No. You know what, I think I really took my time to figure out who I was. I lived in Cuba for a little bit and I was studying music there, kind of honing my craft before I came back to Nigeria. So to be honest, I think it was just a reflection of me really digging into who I am. And I'm also very particular about my ish, if you understand. So I can't just I would never present something that was half-baked.
Yeah.
I don't believe in half-baked things. So by the time I was ready to release, and people take you seriously as well.
So you talk about Cuba, and I know that you lived in Cuba for about a year, and I want to know, how did that shape your sound? Because your sound is, I listen to your music, and it's rhythmic, it's also very percussive as well. You played the cajon, right?
And the guitar.
And the guitar. And it's just an amalgam of all these interesting rhythms. There's Latin America, there is Nigeria, there's jazz, of course. It's very, very heavily jazz influenced, and your voice is incredibly soulful, and all the just the huskiness and the ripples going on. So, how were you able to sort of find this voice and find this sound?
So, I give this analogy. You are what you eat. So,
this is true.
In the same way you are what you eat, you are what you digest. So, living in Cuba, I would naturally digest a lot of the rhythmic and jazzy elements that they are known for in Cuba. But I'm also Nigerian, so I grew up listening to, my parents, came to Canada maybe a year before I was born, or my mom was pregnant and then she came. Anyway, so there was certain music that we were listening to in our house, but then I had, very North American soul influences as well. So it's just all these things, you put them inside a pot, you now shake it.
But how do you know enough of what? Do you ever struggle with that though?
What do you mean?
Enough of what element, what sound?
But that's
because
that's irrelevant.
A little shake and then it's completely different.
That's you know why that's irrelevant? Because I don't have to. I'm not thinking about, okay, I need to add 5% jazz, 7%.
Yeah.
I'm just being myself, and who I am is a reflection of my experiences. So therefore, if I'm learning music in Cuba, I'm back in Nigeria, I'm listening to music from the 70s, high life, whatever. And then listening to soul and jazz. Lauryn Hill was one of the artists that first really sat in my spirit as a creative. You put that all together, I'm just going to be myself. Because my music is, people say, what is your sound? I say, if you ask 5 people, they'll tell you 5 different things. The only thing I can tell you is that I'm Falana, period. That's my sound. And I pride myself in being able to sound like myself. So it's not a I wouldn't say my sound is I'm not intentionally trying, I'm just being myself and listening, trying to connect and hear and share what I'm hearing and create in the tangible form of music what I'm hearing in my head. So.
Now, let's talk about moving to Lagos. Lagos is a very interesting place. It's a very interesting city.
Yes.
It can eat you up, swallow you out. Swallow you up, spit you out rather. They can do all these interesting things to you, but it's also like a hustler's paradise as well. And I think when people hear about music a lot of the time, we know about all these great musicians that have come out of Lagos, but at the same time, looking at sort of our current cultural climate, there is a certain kind of music that is seen as acceptable or popular or mainstream. Did you ever worry about finding a place in the midst of all of this?
No. And I like to use analogies. So I'm going to give you another analogy. If you go to a wedding tomorrow. Okay,
you're like the metaphor girl, aren't you?
I love them. Because, I don't have to even explain myself. They just explain it for me. So if you go to a wedding and you want to eat, okay?
Yeah.
you won't only have amala, for example, at your wedding, because people will be like, they want options.
Yeah.
Nigerians have, not, and I'm using food as an example,
Yeah.
but we also have that capacity in music. If you look at our musical history, you know, we weren't just listening to one type of music. You know what I mean? So I feel like people always underestimate the depth of the palette of the Nigerian listener. So I don't think anyone who tells me, okay, you have to be this way, you have to be the other way, you know, I personally don't listen to it. We can talk about different things. We can talk about numbers, if you want to talk about numbers. But I just personally believe that if you're going to be involved in anything, the passion has to be there first in the first place. And the easiest way to have a long and prosperous career is to kind of thrive in being yourself. So I'm just going to continue making music that makes sense for me. And people are going to continue to connect with it the way that, you know, they connect with it. I also, you know, another example I always say is, you know, Adele released her album end of 2015, and Nigerians everywhere were singing, hello, hello, hello. Who is, hello, hello, hello. But you're now telling me that Adele has no market in Nigeria. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's not even about, I think it's just a matter of, you know, allowing who is different and what is itself to have room and to thrive and do its thing. And you can watch how, and we have examples, you know, of music that is not the traditional. I love this guy. He's actually the sweetest guy ever. Adekunle Gold is a perfect example of someone who's doing his own thing and thriving, you know, as a musician and being respected. He's not singing this. He's not even singing the same topics, you know. So that's just one example. And there's more in our industry. So I don't like people who, you know, they're like, oh, sorry, no one has ever gone there before, so you shouldn't go there. Eh?
But talking to you right now, part of me feels like you've had this conversation a few times.
Too many times.
Do you, you know, and I feel like you've also been frustrated by the conversation.
I'm not frustrated. I'm not frustrated.
Or irritated.
I'm not irritated. I'm a very passionate human being. So, you know, my dad will be like, why are you angry? I'm not angry. I'm not. No, I'm not angry. I'm actually.
But do you feel like has there been any points since you're sort of moving to Lagos and creating your work here where you feel like you have to fight for yourself? You feel like you have to fight for yourself or fight for your own musical identity?
I feel like anybody who lives in Lagos is fighting. To be honest. Whether you're a musician, whether you are trying to be a filmmaker, whether you are a creative, whether you're not a creative, whether you work in the banking industry, whether you're an engineer, whether you are a bricklayer, I don't care. Everybody's fighting. Everybody has to fight in Lagos to, you know, to have a voice for themselves, to, you know, hold their own. They have to fight. So that's just bottom line for anybody who's living in Lagos.
Something I love that you've been doing as well is also sort of creating would I say your own model of how to share your music or distribute your music or getting people to experience your music. And you had this series of pop-up concerts which was super successful last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I attended one, but I heard that at the final one, people were almost throwing stones that they couldn't get in.
I'm so sorry.
Was this very true?
You know, to be honest, that is the most amazing blessing that you can have. That people are like upset. If I want anyone to be upset, yeah, I want them, like, I'm not happy that they were upset.
Yeah.
But I'm still, like, humbly grateful that people were upset because they couldn't get in, as in we didn't have space, or, like, that to me is I keep saying blessing, that's the only word that comes to mind. I'm just grateful, you know? And it also means that, you know, people like what I'm doing. So all this noise, people are talking, anybody who's talking, I don't know if they're talking, Sha, you're telling me they're talking. If they're talking. If they're talking, let them talk. I'll just do my own, continue doing my thing, and then...
You know, I feel like sometimes you're one of those artists that I never want to share you with anyone. So I get quite... When some people start, you know, there are people that just say, do you know Falana? Like, you know, like they know her. I'm like, no, we knew her music first, excuse me. Like, I'm so protective in a way, but I'm so happy for your success and the fact that more and more people are having access to your music as well. Something that was very interesting about the pop-up concerts was the fact that you were also reclaiming public space for performance, which is something that has just started happening, where we're taking iconic spaces or just public spaces that we are not utilizing for as much as we should for art, and using that for art intervention as well. I want to really know your own sort of philosophy and idea towards really starting that.
Yeah, so that was one of the biggest one of the most exciting elements about this concert series, because people forget music is one element. You also, when you're experiencing music, we have 5 different senses that work in conjunction with themselves. So I'm watching you, I'm listening to you. There's lights that will change the way I perceive you. I, might be able to touch you or touch something. We have, sight, sound, taste. We know the 5
Smell.
senses, smell. So when you go to an amazing concert experience, we as artists have the capacity to manipulate the space to enhance the experience. And because I am a creative, I wanted to really explore that in my own way, within my own means as an artist in Lagos. So, and then we also wanted to, again, like we have, there's so much abundance in Lagos, but sometimes we miss it all. So finding spaces that maybe were underused or used in a different capacity, because we are human beings, we have the capacity to imagine. So I was trying to just find spaces that maybe weren't used in traditional ways and reinvent them, and see what I can do to make it more interesting. We're also taking people on a journey. Like, I remember when I did the show in Yaba at CCA, it's Contemporary Center for the Arts, and I was really grateful to be able to use that space. So people were just like, I didn't know this place was here. Now, so this is
And they
an
have
art
lived in the
gallery,
city all their
and they
lives,
had been in
yes.
do you understand what I'm saying? So, like, to know that there is this, art gallery that is constantly showing amazing, doing exhibitions for amazing artists in Lagos specifically, and all of Nigeria, potentially sometimes internationally. It was, I was happy to be a part of that. There's some people who already knew it existed, but for the people who didn't know, now they know. I was lucky to be the first to do a concert inside Alara. That space, everybody knows. Alara is just an amazing space for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
For like an icon for style and fashion, lifestyle, even food. So I was very happy and privileged to do that show as well. So, and then the City Hall was my favorite. Wasn't my favorite? I can't say that. They were all
You
different.
use the printing press as well, the printing house.
No, we didn't use that. I remember we actually were considering it, but we didn't actually do it there. We also used I Am Isigo, Boo Boo,
Okay.
Lenter. That was the first one in her showcase showroom. So that was really amazing. City Hall was interesting to me because people know City Hall, but the room itself was generally only really used for like weddings, and we're just trying to like remember. Hello, look at this beautiful building with so much history. Let's remember, like people go or drive past it, but they hadn't really been in the space. Or maybe they've been on the roof. So essentially, I'm kind of repeating myself, but just really trying to push myself to, change spaces that people wouldn't normally use as concert spaces. And then open people's mind to say, okay, we don't have to go to the traditional places that we have. There are other opportunities. It might not be the easiest option, but, the opportunity is there. And then it also challenges us, me as the artist, to what can I do to change the way people will receive my music, down to what I'm sitting on, down to the lights. Because when you go to concerts, like if you go to a concert in New York, all the, fire blowing, water, like
I love it. Fire blowing, water, pyrotechnics.
Exactly. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But there's levels to that, and you can do it in your own humble way. So that was, the Uncovered series was like a very intimate version of that. And I'm very happy that it was as successful as it was. People are like, "Are you going to do it again?" I said, "Loading." You know me, I don't talk too much when it comes to like what I'm working on. I like to just do the work.
Yeah.
Like you said, you do the work and then present it when you're ready. So
I think something I've enjoyed about just talking to you today is the fact that we've talked about the audience. You've talked about the audience in so many different ways and receiving your work and their palettes and something that a lot of conversations that go around sort of like artistic circuits and in different mediums as well is this conversation about the audience. And you mentioned something about how we sort of underestimate their palettes or feel that their palette is not wide enough to take in or absorb different sorts of things. Do you feel, and I feel like I've asked a lot of artists this question as well, do you feel like we undermine and oversimplify the Nigerian audience? And do them a disservice sometimes by doing that, by thinking or saying that, oh, they would not be interested in this or this is not going to be their thing?
I think it's very challenging to, like, because of the where we live, you know, even to be an entrepreneur, everybody knows it's not easy. It's challenging. So to be someone who is going to go against what is the norm, knowing that even doing the norm by itself is difficult. You know, I feel like that could be one of the obstacles that prevents people from seeing possibility, because we're all just trying to just, you know, just shine, simply just to shine. Now you want me to shine and run, like it's difficult.
It's like too much to do at once.
You know what I mean? So then we just become so accustomed to let's just bring it down here. Let's just keep it down here. Let's just, you know, because you know, if I want to do a concert in an open field, they say, hey, lights. Now, please, sorry.
Or the sound.
Or sound. Yeah. And then it becomes something that you can't do, you know? Because that same problem with, like, those kind of issues would still happen in a space that's already established, for example. So I just think it's always easier to do what is normal, to do what is the norm, to do what's been done. So in terms of, like, simplifying them, like, if the only way you know is if you try, but people are like, if we try, then
do you think the artist is being lazy by doing that sometimes?
By not trying.
By not trying.
I think people are chasing, you know, it's like, I've seen this work, so if I just redo this, then it should work. Versus, how can I innovate?
Yeah.
How can I inspire? How can I do something and pull something unique out of myself that might shift the musical space in a meaningful way? That, at the end of the day, depends on the person you're speaking to, you know? Every human being is different. This is not just in music. This is in technology, in film, in, you know, science, anything. People who their life is dedicated to trying to push the boundary. That's, I think, more of an internal thing. We're not all equal. Some people are very happy not pushing boundaries and just living in what works, you know? So I'm not going to say, I don't want to call it lazy. I want to, like, there's people who innovate.
Yeah.
And there's people who don't innovate. And that's just, I'm not trying to say, oh, you're not an innovator. You know, everybody, we're creative. I don't want to undermine anybody's creative capacity. If someone wants to create in a way that they think will work, you know. But then if you want to really answer that question, ask them what their motives are. If they say, okay, I want blue. I want to, like, you know, I want to be really,
I want to hammer.
If that's if think about it, if that's what your objective is, then of course you do what will take you there fastest based on, and that happens in any industry. Like, now we're talking about being a creative entrepreneur. I always say, if you want to have this conversation, just ask me which Falana you want to speak to. Do you want to speak to the artist? Do you want to talk numbers? Because if we talk numbers, we can talk about numbers and understand why someone's decision might make sense, because the return on investment is much quicker. But then, it just depends on what your motivations are. You ask someone that, then the rest will make sense. You know what I mean?
So you're working on the new album.
Yes.
You've done the EP.
Yes.
Now it's the album.
The full
album.
Have you ever given birth to a child?
No, I'm not a mother yet.
Neither have I. But when I do, I think
it's going to be similar.
I feel like, oh, I know this feeling. Oh, look at this.
How is it going? Because I know it's still in progress.
It goes.
I feel like you don't want to say anything. Tell us. Give us a little bit more.
It goes. I just gave you now.
It goes.
Maybe I'm going through childbirth. Yeah, it goes. You know, I believe in creative. I believe in energy.
Yeah.
Coming and going as you emit energy, it comes to you. So I just kind of trust that process. So my EP was called Things Fall Together, and not Things Fall Apart. People ask me, did you do that? I was like, no. The reason I called it Things Fall Together, to be honest, you know, could have been a subtle nod to the novel, obviously. But it was because when I moved to Cuba, I had no idea what I was doing. Zero. This girl, do you speak Spanish? No. Do you know anybody? One person. Okay. And I'm in a country where I don't know anyone. I'm just trying to, like, figure myself out, trying to grow as a musician. And I just happened to meet people. It's because I was, you know, bold enough and brave enough to just put myself into the universe in a specific way. And then it started coming back to me. And then I met a lady, like I can tell you the whole story. I don't know if we have time, Sha. But I met a lady who introduced me to my piano teacher, who introduced me to her roommate, who introduced me to the producer or co-arranger, co-producer on my album, on my EP, sorry. And that was just a series of organic occurrences that just kept happening. So in terms of my album, I say all of that saying, like, I'm working on it. So even, like, in terms of the music that is coming out of me right now and just trusting that it's happening at the right pace, at the right time, you know, yeah, it's coming. It is.
All right.
I promise.
We're waiting.
Yeah. How to Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. Ooh.
So random.
I know. I was going to be like, girl.
My favorite living artist, I have to, I'm sorry, Lauryn Hill will always be my favorite artist. She's still alive, Sha,
Yeah.
so I have to.
That's why she's favorite living, yeah.
Okay. I would be a mango.
Why?
Mangoes are very sweet. You have to tear off the skin. So once you tear off the skin of a mango, you get to the sweet
Nice and
slice.
pulpy. Some people actually eat the skin, you know.
You can eat the skin.
Yeah.
One word, sorry, I suck at these games. I am
One
amazing.
word. Okay.
Sorry, that was the worst word ever.
It's just like your head is big, fancy.
Job I like to do for a day pilot.
Okay, that's interesting.
Take a breath, let it out, start again.
Start again. I can't sing, but I love that song.
My biggest regret? Not learning, not like studying more languages from when I was a child. But that's not something that I would be able to, you know.
You know, you're such a show off.
Sorry, should I just?
You speak four already, and then
No.
the regret is that,
No.
oh, you didn't learn this. So
Yeah,
what else
okay,
you want to speak?
no.
Russian?
Yes. No, I'm just kidding. No, to be honest, the language is okay. Language is one of those things.
Yes.
Where, you know, you have your first language, but sometimes it will always be your second language. So
Yeah.
you have different levels of fluency. And I find there's some, like, if you start learning from when you're a child, or like, for example, if I studied French for like 20 years of my life or something like that, my level of French would be almost at par with my English.
I completely agree with you because it's a big regret of mine as well.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
totally.
I'm not trying to make
Totally.
anybody feel lesser of a person, you know?
So she's amazing. She
No,
wishes
I
that
wasn't
she's...
taking
Okay.
Calm down.
Oh, I like that. That is so important.
Yeah.
Calm
Down.
Yeah, I know.
Not even just calm down. Baby, calm down.
Or
Just
in
like
other
that.
words, farabale.
Exactly.
Your blood is too hot.
Of course, art can change the world. Art is one mediums that can travel across languages. Art is the one way that people from different places can engage about a conversation that maybe they wouldn't be able to engage in, you know, through just regular discourse or conversation. I think art really embodies the human experience. So that's why people connect. One song, everybody's now crying because we can all connect to it. It's like a very raw form of expression, like people peeling away at themselves to share who they are. And then people are seeing themselves in that. Of course, I think it could change the world. The best compliment I've ever received. Someone sent me a message saying, your song helped me get through a very difficult time in my life. Start Again specifically. And I'm just very grateful that you're creating because it helped me. You know, that's like, keep doing what you're doing. What you just did has shifted my spirit in a way or has helped me get through something. That's the most humbling thing you can tell an artist. Because in my own vulnerability, I was able to help somebody else. That's the most amazing
Falana,
thing.
thank you. I've had a great time. Thank you for your fiery and bubbly self.
Thank you very much as well. Undescribable is my word. Please, somebody write it down.
Undescribable. I like that too.
I need to go read.
But you know what? Own your amazingness. Yo, own it. You're amazing. You're hot. You're fly. It's fine. Thank you so much to our guest, Falana, for coming on the Culture Diaries set today. We'd like to give a massive shout out to Source Productions for loaning us their beautiful studio. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up as well. You can follow us on social media. All our information is at the bottom of the screen somewhere. Till next time, don't forget, art is life.